Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar for today. Thank you to each one of you for joining us. The topic for today is regarding updates for the paycheck in regards to the Paycheck Protection Program, and our presentation will be provided on behalf of Victor Bribiesca with the U.S. Small Business Administration. So thank you, everyone, once again for joining us. And before getting started, I want to share with you just a reminder to please send us your questions through the chat box feature. If you're joining us through Facebook Live, then post your comments in the section of the comment section, and we'll make sure to make your questions available to our presenter. And also, we have interpretation available for those that are joining and that prefer to listen in Spanish. So, si usted está accediendo a la plataforma de Zoom para poder activar la función de poder platicar en español, por favor, simplemente seleccione donde dice More y después seleccione la opción de Language Interpretation. Y allí va a poder usted seleccionar si quiere escuchar en inglés o en español. Así que cualquier pregunta, déjenos saber en la área del chat. Y antes de well, sorry about that. Before continuing with the presentation, I want to say thank you to the following companies for supporting our mission here at the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation and allowing us to bring these weekly webinars to our small business community, regardless of where you're at. If you're in the Central Valley, in California, or in another state that you're listening in. So thank you to Bank of America, Comcast, Bank of the West, Chevron, FHL Bank San Francisco, Donna G. Sales, Wells Fargo, Tri-County Bank, AP Morgan Chase and Company, and Union Bank. Thank you so much for your support. And with that being said, this is the agenda for today. So as mentioned, we will be having Victor joining us today to give us some updates in regards to round 2 of the PPP program. And we'll be following with the Q&A session to make your questions live. Once again, the foundation, we are here to help and serve our small business community. As you can see, we have a team of 6 that's here to help you out. And so whether this is in regards to information on how to up-to-date information on programs and resources, relief programs for your business. If you're wanting to connect with information about upcoming webinars, we're here to help you out. So as you can see here, these are some of the services that we're offering. I know there's a new relief program, round 2 as well for the California Relief Grant Program. So I'll be providing more information on upcoming a webinar that we'll be hosting tomorrow. So with that being said, please contact us at 559-222-8705 to help you out with any of your business needs. So really quick, short introduction. And so now I would like to welcome Victor, who will be presenting us the presentation for today. So Victor, I'm going to just quickly make you here our host and allow you to present your screen. So thank you, Victor.
Hi, good morning. Can everybody hear me? Good. All right. So let me share my screen. We'll go through the PowerPoint presentation on the Paycheck Protection Program. Before we get started, first, I would like to thank the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation, Sandra, for allowing us to present to everybody here at the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation. The relaunch of the Paycheck Protection Program so everybody can take advantage of it. More importantly, there are some changes to the Paycheck Protection Program as far as how you can take advantage of it again, and then of course new rules and things like that. So with that, I'm sharing the screen. Let me get the slideshow started, and we'll get going. If you do have any questions, I do ask, please hold them until the end of the presentation so that we can go ahead and get all those questions answered. We can help everybody get those answers that you need for the Paycheck Protection Program. So first and foremost, my name is Victor Bribiesca. I'm with the Small Business Administration. I'm the Economic Development Specialist for the Fresno Area District Office. And so the Paycheck Protection Program, it has been relaunched as of this year, and what it does entail is a new update with regards to industries that have or were not included in the first draw, and then there's a second draw. We'll cover what the terminology of the first and second draw is, eligibility requirements, and then of course how you can take advantage of the second draw. One thing I will say is if you do have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any questions regarding the documentation, the application and things like that, my recommendation and everybody's recommendation at this point is please visit the U.S. Treasury website. And that's where you will be able to find all the most up-to-date information as well as the up-to-date documentation regarding the Paycheck Protection Program. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things, as I mentioned, where we are right now, the key dates. Unfortunately, like the first Paycheck Protection program under the CARES Act, this particular second draw has a really short lifespan, in which we'll be talking about that. First draw PPP loans, as I mentioned, there are some changes in this PPP updates. The second draw forgiveness updates, and then, of course, what to do in additional resources. So right now, this round of the PPP was to increase the COVID relief funding. Now, some of you have probably heard on the news when they shut down the first Paycheck Protection Program, there was still some funding available, but Congress didn't know what to do with it at that point in time. And so once the election was over and the new administration transitioned and all these things, Congress came back together and said, this is what we want to do with it. And so the very first thing that they wanted to do is they wanted to focus it on the hardest hit small businesses and those in the underserved segments, including women-owned, minority, and veterans. And therefore, the SBA is now initially opening the PPP loan applications to community financial institutions, which, by the way, congratulations to the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation on becoming a certified CDFI. So that is a really, really big step, and we're all happy here at the SBA and congratulating the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation on becoming a CDFI. We're also looking to leverage the lender match platform for borrowers so borrowers can find participating PPP lenders. Unlike the very first PPP launch program, the lenders in the second aren't as many. So my recommendation is if you're looking for a lender that's participating in the program, please visit the SBA website under the lender match platform. Type in your zip code and we'll give you those lenders that are participating in the program. The fintech companies such as PayPal, Square, and those related companies may not show up on the lender platform, but I do recommend that you take a look at those. They're still participating and they're very, very active in the PPP program. So if you're not able to find a lender in your area or you're not familiar with the lenders in your area, you can always give us a call at the Fresno District Office and we can give you that information regarding PayPal, Cabbage, and all the other fintech companies that are participating in the program. And last but not least, we're still providing the trainings and materials as far as what the PPP means, how we can help you, documentation, filling out of documents, and things like that. So the important dates are January 11th, which already passed. We opened it up for the first draw applications for the community financial institutions. On January 13th, the PPP opened for second draw applications to community financial institutions. On the 15th, first and second draw applications went to lending institutions with 1 billion or less in assets. On January 19th, first and second draw opened up for all institutions, and on March 31st, the most important deadline or the date on this is the deadline to submit all PPP applications. So if you haven't taken advantage of the first draw or looking to take advantage of the second draw, you have until March 31st to submit the applications to your participating lender. What is a CFI? Community Development Financial Institutions, Minority Depository Institutions, Certified Development Companies, and Microloan Intermediaries. So again, the whole focus of the second PPP program was to get the funding out to the smaller communities, the rural communities, and give the opportunity to small institutions like the CDFIs to help us and distribute the funding to those hard hit businesses in those rural communities. So what is the first draw PPP loan? That means those applicants or small businesses that did not receive a PPP loan prior to August 9th of 2020. Loan eligibility includes additional types of entities. If you all remember in the first PPP, there were certain companies and entities that would not qualify for the program. So what has happened is that it has expanded, and we'll cover some of those expansions here in a bit. Also, we expanded the covered eligible expenses. If you remember, the eligible expenses were very limited, where 60% of the funding had to be used for payroll costs, but the 40% remaining was only limited to utilities, rent, interest on mortgage, and things like that. So we expanded a little bit, and we'll cover that here in a bit as well. Borrowers can also select the covered period, which is 8 to 24 weeks after disbursement. One of the questions we get a lot is, Victor, I spent my money within 16 weeks. Can I ask for forgiveness, or do I have to wait for the 24 weeks? And the answer is you can ask for forgiveness at any point in time that you finish using those funds. So if you finished it within 7 weeks, 16 weeks, or the full 24 weeks, please request forgiveness once you're done with using those funds. Remember, you do have to submit documentation or save, or keep and save that documentation just in case they do ask for it. The best rule of thumb, the same thing as the IRS mentions, keep those documents in file for 5 to 7 years just in case. Certain borrowers may request an increase to the original PPP loan amount. Again, this is not all borrowers. This is only for certain borrowers. If you do have a PPP loan already and you have not requested a loan forgiveness, go back to your lender and see if you can get an increase rather than taking a second draw. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. And last but not least, as I mentioned, you have till March 31st or until congressional appropriations expire. In other words, until the money runs out. So my recommendation is take advantage of it as soon as possible. Very, very important if you haven't, or you wish to take on that second draw. So first draw eligibility, as I mentioned, there are certain expansions on it. You still have to comply with business size standards. What is considered a small business, you can always give us a call here at the SBA Fresno District Office. We can give you that information, and we can let you know if you fall within those guidelines. Eligibility criteria and certain limitations. So newly eligible businesses, as I mentioned, we've expanded those businesses that were previously excluded from taking advantage of the PPP. In this case, it was the housing cooperatives, destination marketing organizations, and these are travel agencies, if you will. Certain 501c6s, organizations such as chambers of commerce. Now, the C6s, for those of you that do not know, is different from a 501c3 in which they have lobbying activities. 1 and 2, a lot of their income is not through donations, but more through membership. So if you're a 501c6, you are now able to take advantage of this PPP. And of course, there are certain eligible news organizations that are available to take advantage of this program as well. Still eligible, again, the original intent of the PPP was to help the small businesses such as partnerships, corporations, LLCs, sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed individuals, 501c3s, 501c19s, which are veteran organizations, and tribal businesses. So on the second draw, what is the second draw? And these are the borrowers that previously received a PPP loan, but have less than 300 employees and have suffered a 25% reduction in gross receipts. So you do have to meet those 2 new criteria that are imposed for a second draw. You have to have less than 300 employees, and you must have sustained a 25% reduction in your gross receipts. For most borrowers, the maximum loan amount for the second draw is going to be 2.5 times your average monthly for 2019 or 2020 payroll costs, up to $2 million. For borrowers in the accommodation and food services, the restaurants, the hotels, the maximum loan amount for a second draw is a 3.5 average monthly for 2019, 2020 payroll costs for up to $2 million. So in other words, the cap is $2 million per business. Last but not least, for those individuals that are looking to have a second draw loan, you must submit the SBA Form 2483 SD, which is the borrower application, and you do have to submit that to the lender. And this lender is the same one that you received your first PPP loan with. So those are the very, very important notes to take away, is that you have to fill out the new document, and you must take it to the lender that you received your first draw loan with. Again, must have previously received a first draw on the PPP loan. Additional criteria: you must have used or will use to the full the first PPP loan in order for you to be eligible for the second draw. Now, if I have a $100,000 PPP loan and I still have $10,000 in it, I must demonstrate that I'm going to be using that up before the second draw money hits my bank account. So I can still have money from the first draw and still be eligible for the second draw, but I have to demonstrate I'm going to use that first money, or that first pot of money before the second pot of money comes in. But if I've already used it, I'm already eligible for that second draw. Must have less than 300 employees. And again, you must demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. One of the questions we do receive is, well, Vic, I didn't have a drop of 25% in the first, second, or third quarter, but I did have a 25% reduction in the fourth quarter of 2019 and 2020. Can I use that quarter? The answer is yes. The only thing that you have to remember is you have to have a comparable quarter. It's not saying the first, second, or third, or fourth. It's just saying, do you have a 25% reduction in a comparable quarter between the year 2019 and 2020. As far as loan forgiveness is concerned, borrowers must apply for forgiveness through the lender. The lender will then submit that documentation and decision to the SBA. We're getting calls all the time here at the SBA with borrowers, CPAs, accountants, or other authorized representatives of businesses that have PPP trying to submit that forgiveness application and documentation over to us. Unfortunately, the SBA nor the Treasury Department are the ones that are receiving this documentation. You have to go to the lender that gave you that PPP loan in order for that forgiveness to be processed. Other important updates regarding the Economic Aid Act and the changes. The EIDL advances are no longer deducted from the forgiveness amounts. For those of you that received an EIDL advance early on in the stages of the Economic Aid Acts, or I'm sorry, the CARES Act, when the EIDL came out, they were offering that up to $10,000 EIDL advance, which was considered a grant. One of the things that came out later was that if you did receive a PPP loan, that advance automatically transferred into the PPP, and therefore you had it turned into some of that debt. So at this point in time, if you did receive a EIDL advance and you have not, and you also received a PPP loan but have not requested forgiveness, the advance will no longer be counted against you anymore. Also, PPP loans are not taxable income. However, expenses paid with the PPP loans are also now tax deductible. Consult the IRS or ask your professional CPA or accountant regarding this new update. If you do have any questions in detail regarding the accounting or the 1040s or how you're going to report your taxes and the PPP, I'm not a tax consultant, and I won't be able to give you information on that. Also, expanded forgivable expenses are permissible for any PPP loan not already forgiven. So under the expanded forgiveness categories, if you have a PPP loan that's been forgiven and you wanted to take advantage on the new categories, it's not possible. But if you don't have that forgiveness done at this point in time, you can take advantage of those new categories as well. Coming soon, simplified forgiveness applications for PPP loans at $150,000 or less. Right now, there is a simplified application for PPP loans of $50,000 or less. And you can definitely find that new form under sba.gov or the treasury.gov websites. They're very, very simple, one-pagers, and the documentation required are a lot less than for those loans of $150,000 or more. But at this point in time, it's for those loans of $50,000 or more. So if you have a $50,000 PPP loan or less, use a simplified forgiveness application on the SBA.gov website or the treasury.gov website. But for those of you that have more than $50,000 but less than $150,000 PPP, just keep your eye out at the Treasury website or the SBA website or any of the mailings that we have at the SBA.gov or through the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation, because we do communicate with them. Anything that comes out under these applications, just keep an eye out on it. If you're not part of our mailing list, whether it be with the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation or with the SBA, highly recommend that you register so you can receive our newsletters and updates. And that's it. Any questions?
Hi, Victor. Yes. So there's some questions here on the chat box. So the very first one that was asked is in regards to if a business has a loss of 23%, should they still apply or should they not apply?
Yes, I would still apply. You're very close to the 25%. My recommendation is talk to the lender, and they would be able to give you more guidance on that.
Perfect. Thank you. And then there's a question. Okay, so this is regarding average payroll. So the question reads, average payroll for 2019 or 2020 for the period that we're going to be. So which is the average payroll that they should use for applying with this new round? Is it the payroll for 2019 or the payroll for 2020?
So it's asking the comparable quarters between 2019 and 2020. So I'll give you an example. If my payroll for third quarter or fourth quarter, because it's easier, October, November, December is going to be the fourth quarter payroll of 2019. I had, I don't know, $10,000, for example. Fourth quarter 2020, I had $5,000. So I'm comparing my fourth quarter of 2019 and my fourth quarter of 2020, and those are the quarters I'm going to be using in order to make that comparison. So that's what you're looking at as far as the comparisons, as well as your average 2.5 monthly average payroll costs.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question here is, for this new round of PPP, can they apply from 2 lenders?
I would recommend going to the first lender before you go to the same lender that you received the first PPP loan with, rather than finding that second lender. Only because it'd be easier for not only you, but for the lender to consolidate those loans, to keep those loans under one roof, rather than for having 2 separate lenders, 2 separate communications, 2 separate files. Try going through your first lender as your first option. And if you're not able to get that assistance through your first lender, or that first lender is no longer participating in the program, then definitely go look for that second lender. Let them know that you do have a first PPP loan, you're looking to do a second draw. They might ask you for information on that first PPP, such as the file number or the loan number from the first lender, so that then they can have that documentation there with them.
Perfect, thank you. And I know we have a participant here that wants to ask a live question. So raise your hand in the chat box so that you can ask your live question. So please go ahead and make your question.
Okay, hi, good afternoon. My name is Porfirio Rios, and thanks for the webinar. And this is a question pertaining to a couple of our clients have been asked by certain farmers that they do work with. They went on this SBA website and they saw that they received over $1 million in funds, and now they're asking the particular labor contractors to provide free labor, since that money was intended to be used for payroll. Our clients are put in a position where, what do I do? Well, my advice to them is find some new farmers to do work for. Is there anything in the regulation that prohibits that kind of practice? And because I'm assuming that these particular farmers have also applied for their own PPP loans, and no one's even gotten their loans forgiven yet, and they're already asking for um, some of these funds to be used for their benefit. What do you recommend in situations like that?
That sounds to me like it's more of a Department of Labor type of question, because it has to do with labor and pay. Um, as far as the PPP loan itself, each PPP loan is given independently to each entity. So if I'm a farmer, I can request my own PPP for my own purposes. If I hire labor contractors and that labor contractor on their own um, requests a PPP on their own, that's for their own purpose. But as far as that question in particular, what they should do or does it prohibit, I would recommend talking to the Department of Labor first and seeing what their guidance is. That way you have a better answer with regards to that, because it just sounds more like it's a labor practice issue more than a PPP issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then just to clarify here, going back to the question, there's the question here asks, can I apply at 2 places at the same time for the first time of the PPP program? So I know the first round is obviously no longer, there's no funds available. So now it's applying for this new round. So if it's their first time applying, I don't know if the reason for applying for 2 is to try and have a chance of receiving the fund, but I know it's recommended just apply through one. If it's your first time, just apply through one lender, correct?
Yes, and if you haven't applied for the first round PPP and you want to take advantage of the first and second round draws, you can do that simultaneously. Just remember, if you do get a first round PPP draw this time around, you have to use the funds that you receive before you get that second round disbursement. So you can take advantage of the first round PPP. If you didn't take advantage of it the first time around, you can take advantage of it now, and you can still take advantage of the second round. Just got to meet those eligibility guidelines.
Thank you. And then the other question here is a situation where the business owner received the PPP the first round, and it was forgiven, but they have a question about EIDL. It looks like they have $7,000 that they received for EIDL, and they wanted to know if that can be forgiven. So just wanted to clarify that.
Sure. So my further question is, I do read it says a PPP loan was forgiven, but now you have to pay back the 7,000. My recommendations go back to the lender, let them know under the new Economic Aid Act to see what they can do. Or you can reach out to us here at the Fresno District Office. You can email me directly. It's victor.bribiesca@sba.gov. Send me your contact information. I can reach out to you, ask you more questions on your situation, and then I can get you a better answer. I believe that was Miss Murray, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And then the other question here is, I'll go ahead and share it here. So about 2 weeks ago, this client submitted an application for round 2, but they still haven't received any information on the status. Do you know what's the turnaround? Does it depend on the lender, or does it depend on the case through the SBA, or is it the lender? So just
For
like
the PPP itself, it's all based on the lender. The SBA's involvement in this program is on the back end. As far as the application, disbursement, approvals, denials, forgiveness, it's all part of the lender's process and procedures. If the lender hasn't gotten back to you for some time now, you can always submit a second application with a different lender. One of the questions I see here is, can I submit an application with 2 separate lenders? It's not recommendable until you receive the answer from the first one. The reason being is that it's going to be flagged because there's going to be 2 applications for the same entity, and so it'll automatically be flagged, and therefore the process and procedures on it might take a lot longer. due to fraud flagging and other items that will come up. So recommendation is go to one lender and do that. If you have a lender that's non-responsive, definitely check our lender match web portal, sba.gov, and see if you can find a separate lender, or go to a separate lender and submit that application and let them know that you submitted an application with the lender that's not responsive. But try to stay with one lender as much as possible so that your loan applications do not get flagged and take much more time than it's already taken.
Perfect, thank you. And I know questions here is Victor's email. So once again, that's victor.bribiesca@sba.gov. So I have input it on the chat box. And then the other question here, it reads word to word. It says, after receiving first round of the PPP, I did not have any other employees. Can I still apply for the second PPP, second round?
Yes, you can. You can submit an application for the second round, but just remember that very similar to the first and the second round, you will have to use 60% of that funding for payroll purposes in order for it to be forgiven. But if you're looking just because you need the funding, you need it to run your business, and it's not an issue to take it on as a loan at 1% for 5 years, then definitely you can take on that second draw PPP application. But just remember some of the items or conditions in order for the loan to be forgiven is that 60% of those funds must be used for payroll purposes.
Thank you. And I know we still have some participants here, so send us your questions. We have, the expert here to help you out. And also you have the option to unmute yourself. So please go ahead and do that.
Hello.
Yes, perfect. Welcome.
Do you hear me?
Yes, perfect. We can hear you. Yes. What is your question, sir?
Yes. My brother-in-law owned the business on 2019. It transferred to my name on January 2020. How do I compare I already have the first PPP loan from Wells Fargo. Now they ask to compare. I do not know. Do I use my brother-in-law income on fourth quarter 2019 to compare to my fourth quarter 2020, or what do I do?
Awesome, thank you. My recommendation is to speak with Wells Fargo and let them know the situation, because your situation is a little unique in the fact that you purchased the business, you purchased an existing business at the time when this whole pandemic started. So the verifiable quarters under your name are a little different. But my recommendation is to definitely talk to Wells Fargo, since they're your first PPP lender and they already approved it previously. Ask them first. If they're non-responsive or they're not giving you a straight answer, shoot me an email, victor.bribiesca@sba.gov, and send me your contact information and I can get an answer for you.
I did call Wells Fargo and they said that go ahead and fill out the application for the second draw. But there were the few, I don't know, because my business is open for 1 month and low for 3 months, open for 2 weeks, low for 3 months, and open for 2 months, lows until now. I do not.
Are you those high-risk businesses like a salon, restaurant, bar type of thing?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So send me an email. Send me an email with your contact information so I can get back to you and I can get more information on your business and your file, and I can get an answer for you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a question here about a resource that may become available soon, and it's regarding the SVO program, which is, I believe it's acronym for Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. Do you have any information on that specific program?
I do. We had some workshops on the shuttered venues grants recently. I think it was last week and the week before. If you need more information on the Shutters Venues grants, please send me an email and I can send you all the details I have on the Shutter Venues grants at this point. We do not have all the details yet, but I know that we're still doing workshops on that. So shoot me an email with your contact information. I can get that information and the dates for the next Shuttered Venues grant workshops to you.
Perfect. And then the second part to that question is that also the business clients, they're holding off from applying from the PPP and to have an opportunity to apply for this grant program. But can businesses apply for the two programs once the other grant program becomes available, or is it recommended to apply for one?
No, so under one of the guidelines under the Shutter Venues grant is that you must not have received a PPP. So if you're part of this, if you fall under the industry for the Shuttered Venues grant and did not receive a PPP, you definitely want to wait for the grant to come out. If you've already received the PPP, you may not qualify for the grant.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Victor. And we'll make sure to keep business owners up to date regarding that grant program that's also provided by the SBA. And then the question here is regarding a restaurant business. So it says here that they that the business dropped 51%, but not the 25% that is required. Should they still apply for this new round?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The guidelines state a minimum of 25%. So if you're at 26, 30, 40, or anything higher than 25%, you're the business that we're trying to get at first, because your impact is much higher than that minimum of 25%. So yes, you can apply.
Perfect. And then regarding the different loan programs that are available, we know the Paycheck Protection Program, there's a process to get that loan forgiven. But some of the questions here are, I received some funding through the EIDL program. And then the other question is another client that also received funding through the Sba Disaster Loan program, which is the same program. So is this loan forgivable? I believe the answer is no, but just wanted to clarify.
That is correct. So the difference is SBA disaster loans, or as you mentioned, Sandra, the acronym for SBA disaster loan is EIDL, or Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Those loans that were that you applied for, those are not forgivable loans. Those are full-term loans, and you do have to pay those back. The only forgivable loan at this point in time is the PPP. It's only forgivable again if you meet those conditions. 60% must be used for payroll, 40% must be used for eligible categories, and you do have to show proof that you used it within those categories. But at this point in time, the EIDLs are not forgivable loans.
Thank you. And then of course, if a business applied and received that EIDL loan, they can still apply for this new round of PPP, right? If it's their first or second time applying.
Yes, that is correct. They're two separate programs. So you can definitely take advantage of both, and vice versa. If you did not take advantage of the EIDL in the last year, but you did take advantage of the PPP, and now you want to take advantage of an EIDL this year, you can definitely do that as well.
Perfect, thank you. And just wanted to remind, if you want to ask your question live, please go ahead and do so.
Oh. Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. For self-employed companies, so we have several LLCs under really one owner, and I'm becoming a partner, but actually that's going to it's not going to matter in this when we apply for this. We've never applied for the PPP or anything. So, but the problem that I guess I'm having is to report self-employed payroll that has not been done yet. How do we show that it's going to go towards payroll?
That is a great question. And unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. Again, I'm not a tax professional or an attorney, and I won't be able to give you guidance on that. My recommendation is to contact your CPA or accountant, or contact the IRS for better guidance on that. with regards to the PPP itself. If the company or companies that that are going to take advantage of the PPP, or have already taken advantage of the PPP, better said, my recommendation is to talk to that PPP lender in which they've already received the loan from. But as far as the way that you should structure the documents in order to demonstrate the payroll, that's definitely a question for your tax professional.
I understand. So would the multiple LLCs be listed? Well, I guess, yes, my questions are in regards to how to apply. I mean, I have the information obtained for the qualifications with the exceptions of the payroll, as well as, do you include all the LLCs or just the owner, the owner, the entity of all of the businesses, like the owner of all of the businesses? Or do you,
Well,
or
the question I would have first is, are the LLC subsidiaries of one, or is it
yes,
independent LLCs?
they are a they're all have EIN numbers. However, it's one owner.
So they don't fall under an umbrella company. They're not like a conglomerate, correct?
No,
They're independent of each other.
correct.
Yeah.
Well,
So
they
what we've
are,
seen is we have individuals that have 2 LLCs, 2 S corporations, or 4 LLCs, or 4 S
yeah,
corporations,
okay,
but they're independent of each other. They're not under one umbrella company.
okay,
They can request a PPP for each independent company, should they choose to. But again, because excuse me, because the individual owner in this case is attached to each of those LLCs, they will be flagged. So the PPP lender will come back to the owner or to the representative to ask more questions on each individual LLC or corporation or each of those companies. But each of those companies individually can apply for a PPP loan, especially since the payroll for each company is separate from each other.
okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. And another question that we have here was almost similar situation, not really, but this is more for those businesses that are self-employed or they're independent contractors. When it comes to if they're wanting to apply for this round of PPP, when it comes to calculating their monthly amount, what's the best strategy for them to calculate, that number that they should be putting? So should it be their wages or dividing them through their annual revenue by 12?
Great question. That all depends on how they that all depends on how they reported it on their tax returns. Again, it's a question this one is more directed over towards the CPAs, accountants, and tax professionals, because they can better determine what they reported and how they reported it. But usually a rule of thumb for even self-employed individuals is this is how much I made and this is how much I taken on payroll to pay myself. And that's the number I would use under payroll. But I do understand that there's some business owners that do different practices. And so that's a question for the tax professional to give them that better answer too, as to how they reported it on their returns. But normally and traditionally, that's how it is. This is my business. These are my revenues, and from my revenues, these are my expenses. And then my expenses includes payroll, in which I am part of, and this is my payroll cost. But again, it all depends on how what their tax professional and how they did it on their 2019, 2020 taxes.
Perfect, thank you. And then the next question is, it's going back to the EIDL loan program. So how does the business owner go about paying back that loan?
Sure. So because the EIDLs do have a time period, I believe it's 12 months of deferment, you will not receive a letter up until I believe it's 90 days prior to when you actually start to pay that loan, or the 90 days prior to the end of the deferment period. You'll receive a letter from the SBA with the details of your loan, with the terms of the loan, the payment amount, and things like that. However, you do understand that because even though it is deferred, your payment is deferred, the loan is accruing interest. And so a lot of business owners want to pay off that interest because it's still accruing rather than taking on the full 12-month deferment. You can always go to pay.gov, and you can pay your EIDL loan payment through that portal. You will get a receipt, you will get a login, so you'll be able to monitor the progress with regards to the payment of your EIDL. As far as the Paycheck Protection Program, payments, again, it's all between the borrower and the lender, the bank, the financial institution in which they received that PPP loan. But as far as EIDL and EIDL only, you can use pay.gov to submit your payment.
Perfect, thank you. And I don't see any other questions on the chat.
Oh, I have one more. I have one more. Sorry.
Perfect, no worries.
With regards to the lender, is it recommended to always go through your current bank, or is there different lenders that have different requirements, or does that make sense?
No, ma'am. Yes, the rules and the guidelines are the same for all lenders across the board, whether it be the large bankers, financial institutions like the Wells Fargos or the Banks of America, as it is for the CDFIs, as it is for the fintech companies. They all have the same guidelines. But we always recommend that to go to the lender that you already bank with, since you already have that relationship established with them. Through the second draw, we've heard that a lot of the banks and financial institutions that participated in the first round are not participating in the second round. And your bank or financial institution might be one of those. And in which case, if they are, definitely look up at Lender Match, a portal on our website. See if you can find a different lender or different financial institution. If you're having trouble, definitely give me an email or shoot me a call. And I can get you to a participating lender so that you can get that application submitted.
Thank you so much, Victor. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. I think that's it for now. But we do appreciate your time and the updates that you provided to us. And of course, every case is every business situation, right? It's a case-by-case situation. So it sounds like a lot of checking in with your bookkeeper or your tax preparer. And of course, if you need further assistance, reach out to our organization or reach out to Victor directly. I know their team are working around the clock with trying to help as many businesses as we can. So with that being said, I do want to say, this recording is I'll make sure to share it with everyone that participated here. And once again, Victor's contact information is shared in the chat box as well. And I also want to take this opportunity to share about this other program that is offered at the state level. And this is the California Relief Grant Program. So this is a program designed for business owners that have been affected by COVID-19 and that have a revenue of less than 2.5 million. There's different tiers of grants that you can apply for based on your annual revenue. So we're going to be having a webinar tomorrow at 3 p.m. So here's all the details, the Zoom meeting ID, or that way you can join us, and we'll make sure to also share it with everyone that's on the call and post it on our Facebook as well. So please join us for this information. We're going to be covering just the basics on how to prepare to submit the application, and of course the steps of the documents that you are going to have to provide, and also a Q&A during the presentation. So with that being said, here is our contact information. Our team is here to help you out, and you can also check out our social media accounts to keep up to date with upcoming events. So thank you once again to each one of you for joining us. Take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.